Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are putting our egos aside and letting the data, take control of our golf bag. Okay, let's unpack this. If you want to shave strokes right now, today, you probably think you need a better swing. But what if the single biggest stroke-saving decision you could make has nothing to do with technique? We're talking about that eternal golf dilemma. When do you go flag hunting, and when do you just bail out to the middle of the green? The finding from the data we've looked at is, well, it's pretty counterintuitive. Most amateur golfers, we think aggression is how you score low, right?
Mm-hmm. Go for it.
But the numbers, they just prove that blind aggression is the fastest way to a blow-up hole. Better scoring comes from this ruthless, selective discipline. So our mission for this deep dive is to give you the exact quantifiable knowledge to just override that gut feeling. We want to pinpoint the moments when aiming at the center is mathematically guaranteed to lower your score.
And that's such a crucial distinction.
Right.
We're not talking about how you swing. Not at all. This is all about your strategy.
Your decision making.
Exactly. Your decision making. Golf, at its core, is a game of probability. And if you ignore the math of your own abilities, you are just actively giving strokes away.
I like that. Actively giving them away.
Think of it this way. Confidence is great. We all want it. But discipline is what separates the average from the great. We need to figure out when attacking is actually, worth the risk.
Okay, so let's start with the big ego check. Because every amateur golfer stands over an iron shot and thinks, I just hit a perfect drive. I can totally thread the 7-iron into that tight little front right pin. We treat it like a precision sport.
And that's the core mistake right there. That's the fallacy. Golf is fundamentally a dispersion game.
Not a precision game.
Not a precision game. No matter how good you feel, physics and, biomechanics, they guarantee variability.
Yeah.
You're just not a machine.
Okay, so let's talk numbers. How wide is this dispersion we need to worry about? I know the pros are lasers, but
Right.
what's the reality for the rest of us?
Well, even the best players in the world, the tour pros, they miss their intended target by 7 to 9 meters on a typical iron shot.
7 to 9 meters.
Yeah. That's 20 to 30 feet of variation. For the absolute elite, that's their tightest window.
Wow.
Now, for amateur golfers, and this is where it really hits home, that dispersion just balloons.
Yeah.
It widens dramatically. Depending on your handicap, you're usually looking at a miss radius of 15 to 25 meters.
Hold on, 15 to 25 meters.
25 meters, that's 50 to 80 feet of variability. You simply can't will that away.
So wait, 25 meters? That's like the width of a small house. If that's my natural shot pattern and I'm aiming at a pin that's tucked 5 meters from the edge,
You've guaranteed a bad outcome.
I have mathematically guaranteed it.
Precisely. That wide dispersion turns a small miss into a huge score killer. The second you aim aggressively at a tight pin, a front pin, one tucked in a corner, you're forcing those 15 to 25 meter errors into the worst possible spots.
Bunkers, thick, rough.
Deep bunkers, short-sighted misses, where you have no green to work with. The takeaway here is really simple. If your natural dispersion is bigger than the safe landing area around the pin, the only smart play is to aim for the dead center of the green. It's the biggest target.
Okay, that brings us perfectly to the next step. If we have to accept this harsh reality, when is it mathematically okay to actually attack the flag? When do we get to switch our brain back to hero mode?
Well, the world's best players are masters of this. It's all discipline. They only attack when their shot pattern, actually supports the risk. They work off these yardage thresholds that shrink their dispersion.
So they have a specific window.
They have a scoring window, yeah. For tour pros, they really only start aggressively attacking pins when they're, say, 70 yards and in. That's their high-confidence, low-dispersion zone.
Right, but what about the rest of us? My dispersion isn't going to magically shrink to 7 meters just because I'm 100 yards out.
No, it won't. If you're an 80 shooter, for example, you really need to be inside 110, maybe 120 yards before you can even think about targeting the flag directly.
And for 90 shooter.
A 90 shooter, you should probably limit that aggressive pin seeking to around 80 yards or less. And if you're typically shooting around 100, well, your dispersion is still so large that aiming at a tight pin from even 50 yards can be way too costly.
Wow. Okay, those distances they're humbling. But they really get to the core problem, don't they? Most of us are trying to hit a tiny target from 150 yards out.
A distance that statistically guarantees a miss if the pin isn't in the middle of the green.
Right.
And this is why you should care. You now have the actual yardage markers for your personal scoring window. If you're 145 yards out and you know your typical miss is 15 meters, attacking the flag isn't a strategy. It's a gamble.
The smart move is the center.
The smart move is always to play for the center and give yourself that huge buffer zone.
Okay, let's make this really concrete. Let's visualize this on the course. How does this actually look when I'm standing over the ball? So let's take example 1. 135 meters to the flag. It's a full iron. We know our 90 shooter misses by about 15 meters and our 100 shooter by 20 or more.
Right, so if that pin is anywhere near an edge, front, back, left, or right, your natural dispersion pretty much guarantees trouble.
So your average shot?
Your average shot is going to land in the bunker, or it's going to kick off a slope into the rough, leaving you short-sighted with a high-stress recovery shot. That whole sequence is it's a recipe for a bogey. Or worse.
So the immediate mandate from the data is?
Aim for the safe, central part of the green. The source material says you can maybe, slightly favor the side of the pin if the middle is wide open, but you should never, ever fully commit to attacking a tight pin from 135 meters. Your average shot just can't support that risk.
Okay, now for example 2. The real amateur killer. A front right pin tucked right behind a deep bunker. Minimal green between the hole and the sand.
Yeah, this is strategically one of the most dangerous pin positions in golf. The landing zone is tiny. Your margin for error is basically zero.
Non-existent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Any mistake, a slight pull, a slight push, gets punished immediately. Amateurs go right at this. They end up in the sand, short-sighted, and they walk away with a double bogey way too often.
So what's the so what here? What's the takeaway for the listener?
It's simple. By choosing the center, you give yourself the biggest landing area possible. You leave yourself a predictable putt or a straightforward chip, and you have a really high chance of a comfortable 2-putt par. You're proactively taking the blow-up hole out of play.
Okay, we've laid out the math, but now we have to fight the mental battle. I'll admit, when I'm 150 yards out, my brain still screams, go for it, go for the glory, this could be a birdie.
Right.
We think aiming for the center is, playing scared. It feels cowardly to aim 30 feet away from the hole when the flag is right there.
But it's the total opposite of cowardice. It's the ultimate display of confidence and discipline.
How so?
The great players know that discipline is confidence in the long run. They know their dispersion, and they're confident enough in their short game to know they can get their par from the middle of the green.
That's a great point.
And when you choose that high percentage target, the center, you take all the pressure off your swing. You can make a freer, smoother motion. You make fewer of those short-sighted mistakes, which means your outcomes are way more predictable.
So the result isn't more birdies?
Not necessarily. The result is far, far more pars. And way fewer doubles. We have to get this idea in our heads. The center of the green is not a defensive target. It's a high percentage target. It's the mark of a smart, strategic golfer.
Okay. So what does this all mean? Let's put a bow on this. For you, the learner, what are the 3 key principles to take to the course this weekend? Principle number 1 has to be, distance dictates aggression. The farther out you are, the less you should even think about pin. For most amateurs, if you're beyond, say, 130 to 150 meters, your target is the center of the green, period. Principle 2, focus on your average. Stop playing for that 1 in 100 perfect strike. Your dispersion pattern, that 15 to 25 meter window, that's what matters. Play for that shot.
Play for your reality.
Exactly. And principle 3, target avoidance. Systematically avoid the sucker pins. Front pins, corner pins, pins tucked behind bunkers. They are designed to punish you.
They're traps.
They're traps. And the data suggests that just by doing this, just by aiming center when the math says you should, you can realistically save 2 shots per round without changing a thing about your swing.
That's a huge immediate return. Good scores don't come from a couple of hero shots. They come from eliminating the disaster holes. Consistency, calmness, that comes from making the smart, high percentage choice. You don't need a new swing. You just need a new target.
So here's a final thought. Think about this. If you actually calculated the percentage chance of hitting that tiny landing zone versus the percentage chance of hitting the middle of the green and making an easy 2-putt, how often does attacking really pay off? If you adopt this strategy, you'll immediately become more consistent, far calmer under pressure, and just undeniably harder to beat. Go take those 2 strokes back this week.